Okay, welcome back to another session at Start Smart Real Estate Reimagined, empowering agents to build a business and life they love. That's what it's all about here. And today, very fortunate to be joined by Nigel. Nigel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Leigh.
We're
Appreciate
talking
the offer.
talking luxury listings today, Nigel.
Talking luxury, yeah. So probably 18 months or so ago, wife and I that run Think Sold Real Estate, down on the Gold Coast, we were with a traditional bricks and mortar organization. Decided to move on and do what we think is our own thing. So we've got the capability to make decisions rather than having to bounce it off a corporate every single time.
Yeah,
Um, yes, we had our call it bread and butter, four bed, two bathroom in the suburbs. But being on the Gold Coast, there is a fantastic market for what is luxury. Not just the waterfront properties and the oceanfront properties, but being close to the hinterland, we've got some sensational acreage properties, equestrian style properties, and mansions that are tucked away. And we sort of looked and sort of said to ourselves, right, what is a luxury property? Some people think it's just price. Yes, you can have an expensive house, but it's just a big house. It's
yeah,
hasn't got wow factors to it. So what we tend to sort of do is look at probably whether it's waterfront acreage, penthouses. Obviously, there's a number of those, but yes, some people want big prices. You But to me, luxury isn't just the price. It's probably, does it have multiple car park spots? Does it have a wine cellar? Does it have infinity pool? What are the appliances? How is the property even furnished? That can give you an idea as to how it is.
yeah.
Um, Classic example, we did an appraisal or went out for an appointment a couple of weeks ago. We knew the guy was thinking about $4 million, so I had my luxury presentation ready. But when we got there, it was a big house.
Yeah.
They got whether it was a Metricon or whoever, but it was just made bigger. And yes, it was $4 million, but no offense to Bunnings and Kmart, but it looked like they'd shop there for appliances as opposed to having architecturally drawn things.
Right,
Yes, it was on the water, but they had the tinny attached to the jetty, and it just didn't come across as a wow factor.
right.
Um, and I think with any luxury advertising and marketing has to be done differently. Lamborghinis, Rolls-Royce, you don't see their adverts on TV at night time, but
Yeah,
they are considered a luxury item.
yeah,
Why do people get those? Because it's something different. It makes them stand out from the crowd.
yeah,
So I think marketing the property, yes, you've got your REAs and your domains, etc. We're fortunate with our brokerage that we have an international reach as well. So it is being promoted into New Zealand, into Hong Kong, into South Africa, India, etc. So
yeah,
it's finding that buyer because when you start getting into the four, five, $6 million plus properties, you're not going to get as many searches on the REAs as you would if it was a four-bedroom, two-bathroom in, you know, Oxenford or, in Sydney, etc.
yeah,
So that's what we look at. But then we also include with our social media type things. And yes, I'm old, but I don't like the word influencers, but they do have a place in society. So if we've got a waterfront property, we use hashtags a lot with the boating community, with the car clubs, whether it's the Ferraris, the Porsches, the Audis, etc. If it's an acreage property in the hinterland or an equestrian style property, we'll hashtag those lifestyles, etc., with the equestrian communities, the horse and hounds, that style of property. So
yeah.
using a different reach than somebody, because if anybody's scrolling on REA for a property, the chances are that they're not necessarily going to be searching for $8 million properties plus.
Yeah.
It takes a different avenue. And I think you've got to look at what sets you apart. I mean, every market, whether it's South Australia, Perth, Sydney, etc., has luxury agents, but they all had to start somewhere. So I think it's a question
Mm.
of looking into yourself and saying, right, do I want to do this, and how am I going to portray myself as the agent to use for that property?
So when just going back to the start of the conversation with luxury properties, defining a luxury property, so it makes sense, right? It's not just price driven,
Yep.
it's also based on the particular characteristics, attributes of the property.
Yes.
And I know I've discussed this with you, I believe, in the
Mm.
past, and we talked about looking at the top 10% for a
Yes.
particular area. Let's say it's the Sunshine Coast where I'm based,
Yep.
looking at the top 10%. Does that give us an idea of what luxury value represents? So if we look at, okay, what are the top 10% of property sales in Sunshine
Yeah.
Coast,
Yep.
as far as a
Definitely.
guide to what then
Yep.
categorizes it
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
luxury price property?
Yeah. And I think, like, obviously we've got the two brands. We've got Think Sold Real Estate, which is our bread and butter, and we've got Think Sold Luxury Real Estate.
Yeah.
And it's a question, yes, of when you do call it your bread and butter type business, a CMA, you compare it with 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom, maybe with a pool, has it got solar? And you look at what's sold in the area the last 3 months, 6 months.
Yeah.
With luxury properties, the chances are there's not going to be anything like it.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to price it, for want of a better word, or appraise it.
Hmm.
And you can sort of look at, okay, well, what's in this suburb, and say, like Sanctuary Cove, for argument's sake, it's all gated communities, they're all big houses, they're all architecturally designed, and they're all different. So, but if you look at Sanctuary Cove itself, which is part of the Hope Island suburb, that can get dragged down by other properties in the area. But
Yeah.
you'll know, because the chances are, yes, you're going to be living close to that area, and you'll sort of know, okay, what has sold. But there is going to be so many differences with some of those larger luxury properties.
So talk to us about getting into the luxury market, because there's probably a lot of people listening that would potentially sell,
Mm.
as you said, bread and butter
Yeah.
properties, but maybe wanting to sell some of those more prestigious homes.
Yes.
What was the shift in mindset for you guys with going down that route, if anything?
Yeah, I think prior to real estate, I used to run a large business to business conference company, and that was talking to CEOs, chief financial officers, chief IT managers, etc. I think it's a question of talking on their level. At the end of the day, they are all human beings. Yes, okay, they've got a big house and they probably got a great job with a great pay, but talk on their level.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
So like anyone really, like when you're
yeah,
approaching
exactly the same. Yeah, you might
business,
go out and see the 3 bedroom house, with a truck driver and his stubbies and his singlet, and your conversation level might be different than if it was a
yeah.
luxury property. But um,
So obviously creating relatability or yeah.
relatability, and that willingness to go the extra step for them. But I think, obviously getting your ducks in line to make sure that if you say you're going to try and sell this $5 million house for them, make
Hmm.
sure that you've got the plan and you know how you're going to do it, which is probably going to be a little bit different than your
Your standard
t-
approach.
10, o- 10 other appraisals a week. Yeah.
So when obviously when you go visit someone, you're obviously going to mirror them and have that level of relatability
Yes.
um, with them. You talked about marketing and marketing of their property, and I wanted to sort of touch on that.
Hmm.
But what is your approach to actually creating those leads and relationships with luxury property owners?
Um, from a lead point of view, yes, we'll sort of scour the numbers, and because we sort of know the areas, we know the streets where they are. We will know because we might well have driven down it, or sometimes I'll just go out on a Sunday and drive around and sort of thinking, right, okay, who can we target here? Finding obviously the contact numbers. Yes, we've got the ID for me's, etc. But with the luxury owners, I tend to use LinkedIn probably a lot more to
Okay.
make that initial contact. People that are very successful tend to be on LinkedIn. They don't tend to do the Facebooks, or it might be the family members that do the Facebook. They are a lot more business orientated.
So when you say go to LinkedIn, just run us through that process. So you know a street, let's say, that has
Yep.
luxury properties on it, maybe
Mm.
waterfront street in the
Yep.
area, and you'll just search property by property, and then
Yep.
would you seek them on LinkedIn just by a name search, or how would you create
Yep.
that initial
No, no,
contact?
well, normally say through CoreLogic initially to find the owner's details. If it's in
Yep.
a company name, then I'll do a company search or a director search, and find them that way. And then do a search on LinkedIn, maybe make contact with them, or do a couple of posts, etc. A lot of these sort of people like being contacted, but if they accept your invitation to connect, I normally tend to leave them at least a week before I'll contact them. There's nothing worse than making a connection and then be on the phone 5 minutes later saying, thanks for the connection. Do you want to sell your house? That's not going to work. Um, but I'll sort of build up a database, which I am literally spending a couple of hours a week on, going through two or three people, making the connection, having a conversation. And then the second part to that is as well the age listings, because luxury properties can take a little bit longer to sell.
Yeah.
So with the package that we offer from a marketing point of view, which obviously we'll get to, um, I will quite often do up a dummy proposal and put it on a little thumb drive, take it to my printer, get them to print out two or three copies of the 16-page presentation, and I will mail it to them with a covering letter.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So that LinkedIn idea, I like that. And so
Hmm.
it's basically just looking up the area wherever you reside at the luxury properties and get
Yep.
and very much a targeted approach.
Yep.
And then looking at those, do you list out the properties first and go, okay, here's all the properties I want to target this week
Yep.
and contact details, and then you just send a friend request or whatever you call it on LinkedIn,
Yeah, just a LinkedIn connection request. Yep.
connection request. And then
Yep.
do you send like a quick message with that, or do you just purely
I will.
connect?
Yeah. There's normally a message, to sort of say, yeah, hi, I'm your local real estate agent. Here's some of the things we've done. Would love to connect with you because I know obviously your property is blah 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 wherever it is. Um, yeah, love to have a chat in the future sometime. And
Okay.
I'd probably say 10 invitations I would send a week. I'd say
Yep.
seven or eight will connect.
They'll connect. And do they respond to your initial?
Yeah, some do, some don't.
Yep.
It's just like, yes, they'll connect, and some will put, yeah, catch up one day. Yeah,
Okay. And how much time do you spend on that strategy with LinkedIn?
about 2 hours a week, that's basically my whole luxury is 2 hours a week of research and sending connections out.
Okay, cool. And do you schedule that in your calendar? Say, okay,
Yep,
2 hours every Monday afternoon, that's what I'm doing.
yep, that's it.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay, because if it's not scheduled, it won't
yep,
happen,
that's right. Yeah.
which I know well and truly.
Everything is scheduled, yeah, and yeah, I've got sort of a 2 hour block on AI research a week. I've got a 1 hour block on age listings for the bread and butter every week. So
Okay, I like
my
that
my
strategy.
calendar's just, and yes, I've got traveling time, appointment time, Saturdays and Sunday mornings blocked off for open homes, and then the traveling time, even that is blocked into my calendar. Especially
Yep,
the traffic on the Gold Coast is shocking.
yep. Okay, so that's 2 hours of luxury lead gen, I guess a week
Yep,
with LinkedIn. So once they connect, you then wait another week, and you've
yep,
just got it in your
yep,
reminders to message
yes,
them again.
yep.
And what does that message look like?
Depend on who they are, if they've connected, and if it's, say, an already a property which has been on the market for 150, 200 days, etc. I
Yep,
will literally, go and spend $5 a time to print out this little 16-page presentation, covering letter, hand signed, not computer generated signature. And I will either drop it in if it's a gated community, or I will post it, put a stamp on it, A4 envelope, out it goes. Um, yeah, and the covering letter, apart from obviously the what we're offering, is notice your property's been on the market for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, etc. Can't believe it hasn't sold. Um, is your current agent offering this? And
yep,
obviously, there's the presentation that details exactly what we can offer, when it's offered, what our information is. And
yep.
quite often they will go, well, my agent can't do that. And it's like, no, because we're the only agency that can offer this particular package.
Yeah.
Um, then have that conversation with them.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that strategy. So and just for a bit of a background there, it's with EXP Realty, which is a global
Yep.
firm of independent agents in 27 countries. There's about 90,000 agents, but a part of that is also a luxury division.
Yep.
So what they do is they can advertise. How many luxury portals or platforms does it go on?
Um,
21 or something like that?
yeah, I think there's about 81 international portals, but then there's call it what I call the major ones, which is Wall Street Journal,
Yep.
Rob Report,
Yep.
um,
James Edition.
yeah, James Edition, MW. There's a whole sort of heap of them
Yep.
that are there uh,
Okay.
in that
So
pattern.
So I guess when you're going out there, if you're not with the XP Luxury, you still want to put into a letter your points of difference and, hey, this is what we
Yep,
can do differently that
yep,
may not be offered at the moment from your current agency.
that's right. Yeah,
And that's your direct approach to properties that have maybe been withdrawn or been on the market for
yep,
over 60, 90 days or whatever it might be.
yep.
So that's cool. So a couple of lead gen strategies there. Just the last one I want to touch on. Do you make cold calls to luxury property owners?
Yes.
How do you approach that?
Exactly the same as a bread and butter style property.
Yep.
Yeah. But some people get sort of scared, I think, by luxury. At the end of the day, they are a human being.
Yep.
I'm just about human. And it's pick up the phone, phone them. Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, William. Hi, Wendy. Yeah.
Have those conversations. Yep. Okay. So
Hi,
nothing different there.
yeah. Real estate in your area. We've got a couple of appraisals in your street, or we do. Yeah. Just have a
Yeah.
conversation with them. Um, 99 times out of 100, they will still, yeah, the result will be the same as if you're phoning Fred Bloggs down the road in the little rundown shack. Some of them
Yep.
will give you the time of the day, some of them will hang up, some of them will tell you to bugger off, and some of them will talk to you.
Hmm.
That they're no different because the house has got an extra zero on the end. It's really just that's what we do. We cold call, we talk to people, we build relationships, and
Yep.
we try and help them with a solution to what their journey is going to look like.
Hmm.
Some of these people might be moving back overseas. They might have been an expat. They might be downsizing. The kids have all grown up and they don't want to look after 8 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
having those, just conversations like you would with anyone,
yep,
and relating to them as best you can in that approach.
yep,
So, want to talk about marketing of properties and service and experience too, because I really love these parts
yep,
of property sales. What is the difference between once you're speaking with a luxury owner, they've decided to, hey, yep, Nigel, I'm going to list the property with you.
yep.
How do you make that experience different? And what is the different approaches you do to marketing other than what you've already mentioned through those luxury magazines, global magazines and portals?
Um, yeah, I think obviously the XP luxury package is one way of getting it out to the masses. Yes, I get a weekly report as to how many people have opened it, how many people have looked at it, and which publications they have seen it on, whether it's a Wall Street Journal or a Rob Report or a James. Um, but we will also, depending on the type of the property, so if it's a waterfront property, um, we will sort of talk to maybe the boat manufacturers, which there's numerous ones on the Gold Coast, the Rivieras, etc. Um, you know, hashtag them. So the social media posts also hashtag in the sorts of magazines that these people will be watching as well.
Yep.
So somebody that owns a waterfront property, chances are they're going to go to the Sanctuary Cove Boat Show, which is on next month, no, a couple of weeks' time.
Yep.
Um, we're actually looking at having a small exhibition space at the Sanctuary Cove Boat Show. Why? Because people that can afford boats tend to have a bit more money to throw away. Um, I will go along to the Ferrari Owners Club once a month. They have a little get together and everybody parks in the, and I'll just walk around and talk to people. Um, people that have those sorts of things, the Rolls Royce Owners Club. Um, the other sort of hashtags are
So when you say hashtags, are you just talking about you hashtag the Sanctuary Cove Boat Club in there, or
yep, yep, and then
how does that connect with the right people?
with hashtags, yeah, that will also tend to sort of get it into their, show up on their page as well.
Right.
So what we've sort of found is if I go and hashtag Riviera yachts, for argument's sake, their starting price for a Riviera now is about $5 million. That's for the boat, so you can imagine the house. Um, if my post then appears on their page,
Yep.
you're getting seen by people that are looking at luxury boats. If people are looking at luxury boats, and it'll be like, who's this thing sold luxury?
Gotcha.
They might well look at it. Yeah, so it's really just covering as many
So
bases.
those hashtags work to then appear on related pages
Yep.
or people that follow similar
Yep.
pages.
Yep, definitely.
Makes sense.
And I think with that you've got, what is luxury, not on a house side, but it's, half a dozen of the car manufacturers.
Mm.
It's your watch people, the Rolexes and the Bulgaris and the Breitlings. You've got your boats. You've also got your 5-star, 6-star restaurants. Um, Luxury travel as well, are quite often, post, no offense to Jetstar, but Jetstar's not a luxury product, but
Yep.
we'll hashtag say the Emirates and the Qatars in there.
Yep.
Or
Interesting. Okay.
or a new business class offering, from some of the other, major airlines, because luxury people, they don't fly down the back in cattle class.
Yep.
They can afford to go to business class or the first class suites.
Yeah.
And just building it and just adding to that whole what is luxury. And everybody's idea of luxury is different to what another person's. One person might like Ferraris but hates Rolls Royces.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I like that hashtag strategy. So putting
Mm.
that in there to pop up in related fields. So
Yeah.
again, when you're marketing a luxury property, it's not
Mm.
just really nice photos, video, and putting it on realestate.com, but it's looking at a more targeted approach again to get it
Yeah,
into the right spaces to
yeah,
attract the right
yeah,
people. I like that.
yeah. And I
And
think,
what about sorry, you go.
yeah, go on. I was going to say, subject to where you live. I mean, obviously, most of your newspapers, that's if anybody actually reads a physical copy, but sort of on the
Mm,
Gold Coast, people tend to go out on a Sunday, they'll go and sit down with their cup of coffee, and you've got the newspaper, but inside you've got the real estate magazine. Now, all of the glossy pages at the front are the big properties, the ones that are different. That's why, they've got the full page spread. So look at some of those, your local paper, if they do a specific, home magazine on a weekend, which is normally when it is, have a look at those. Again, obviously subject to cost, but you can well possibly get your vendor to pay for it.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Mm. So looking at those, yeah, different areas where your luxury demographic might be looking. I like that. And what about the experience? How do you create a luxury experience for someone?
Um, I probably tend to think out of the box. It's funny. My wife and both daughters all drive, or one of them's just sold it, but they all drove MGs. Currently,
Hmm.
Lamborghini model, which is not luxury, but the dealer that sold us that car, he's now moved on to, it's a luxury second-hand car dealership where they get all of the luxury cars that all of a sudden people have realized they can't afford. Um, we actually have got a deal with them. So if we do have a luxury property, I can go down there and borrow a Ferrari, borrow a Porsche, borrow an Audi, depending on what he's got in stock, and actually put that on the driveway. So you're not sort of using the client's personal vehicles, which sometimes there's obviously privacy issues involved. But if you can get a very nice car on the driveway,
Yeah.
and we can get out of that car, be videoed, do the property video, do the walkthrough, etc. And then the car goes off into the distance. So talk to colleagues, friends. You can then do partnerships, because what we do then is hashtag that luxury car dealership into it. He might well get referrals because somebody's seen the video. They don't want to
Yeah.
buy the house, but they're interested in the car.
Yeah.
They will contact them. So it's a good bit of synergy without going over the top and spending money where there's no need to spend money.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Interesting strategies, mate. I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing. That's luxury insights today.
Hmm.
And I certainly think what I've taken away from this is it's no different, luxury versus your bread and butter. The lead strategies might be a little bit more targeted, which you've outlined, but then there's also some different marketing techniques there too with the hashtags, and I think
Yep.
the networking with luxury partners as well, I think is a
Yep.
really big takeaway from this as well. So Nigel Pretty, Gold Coast, how can people reach you best, mate, if they've got any further questions or want to reach out?
Oh, yep. Either Nigel, Nigel, at thinksold.com.au, or drop Leah a note, or look me up on LinkedIn. Yep.
Reach out on LinkedIn. Nigel, thank you for coming on, guys. This is Start Smart Real Estate Reimagined. If there's anything we can help with, reach out to me directly. And until next time, have a great day ahead. Cheers.